Welcome to Ideas, a time of conversation about all things board games. Community is built on conversations, and games are built on ideas.
Hey, my name is Brent here on Cloudy with the Chance of Meeples. Today on the channel, we are having a brand new set of fresh ideas. Of course, at the beginning of the month, we always start with some fresh new ideas. And I feel that community is built on conversation, much like games are built on ideas. And every month, we bring in, whether it be a designer or a publisher or an illustrator, and we chat about ideas and how they get their ideas from here into the games that we love to play. And today we have a very special guest. We have Richard Garfield. And if that name doesn't sound familiar or is familiar, chances are you're a fan of King of Tokyo or Magic the Gathering or a bunch of the other fantastic games that he's designed. Thanks so much for joining us today, Richard.
It's a pleasure to be here. Always fun to talk about games.
This is a blast, and we'll talk a little bit more about King of Tokyo later, and of course, Magic the Gathering celebrating 30 years this year. But let's bring it back before those titles. Your journey into the board gaming hobby, like what does that look like? Did you always play games as a child, as a teen, as an adult, or what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I was always playing games, but I didn't really become a gamer until I discovered Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm.
I was about 13, and I was blown away by that game. It broke all my preconceptions about what games were,
Mm-hmm.
and it just seemed infinite in its possibilities. And so I thought, wow, if this crazy amazing game existed and I didn't even know about it, what else is out there? And then I started playing war games and traditional games and card games and everything I could get my hands on just to understand the big family of games better. And very quickly I became a, a an amateur designer. Uh, Sort of everybody who touches Dungeons and Dragons in some ways becomes a designer. It pushes you into it because you are for the first time in a position where you're really feeling responsible for your own play experience,
Mm-hmm.
and that involves being a designer to some extent, especially for the person running the game, but even for the players.
Mm-hmm. So besides Dungeons and Dragons, do you have like one that kind of was your favorite, or was that kind of like your absolute favorite as a child?
Uh, my favorite, it's hard to do favorites because
Mm-hmm.
I I took it upon myself to really learn to love the games I didn't initially love. Um,
Mm.
and this was important. This is partially being frugal. I go and I spend what little money I have on a game, and if I don't like it, well, that's all I got.
Right.
And so I learned to like it. And
Mm-hmm.
but it's a skill that's really carried me far in games because there's like a lot of traditional card games which weren't immediately appealing to me, but after playing it 30 times, suddenly, wow, this is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And um, so yeah, Dungeons Dragons has a special place for me. I quickly moved on to other role-playing games, but that's the granddaddy. That's what started me. I really loved Go,
Mm.
and um, and also later on, I've considered Go the perfect game.
Okay.
Uh, Later on, I kind of shifted that title to poker. That probably happened when I was in college.
Okay.
But yeah, those games need mention.
Yeah, like Go's been around a long time, and poker's seen its ebb and flow, I guess, in popularity and in mainstream like TV and World Poker Tour and whatnot and stuff. Um, so what are you playing these days?
Wow. I've spent a lot of time trying to balance learning new games because the game world is so exciting these days. There's so much coming out. It's hard to keep up with it all. Uh, but the best part of games for me and for a lot of players, I think, is that they get better the more you play them.
Hmm.
The ones I like usually do, right? Go or poker is not as good the first time you play it as the thousandth time. It's just amazing how much these games often grow in quality. So I balance the new games versus the old. What's my new games right now? I'm playing Feast for Odin. I
Mm.
just played that for the first time about a month ago, and wow, I really like it. But and I just got uh, Mike Fitzgerald's new Detective Rummy
Mm.
because I'm a big fan of his series there,
Hmm.
and so I'm looking forward to trying that. I have not tried it yet. Um, and for old games, well, I'm playing Code Names. Look over my, what I pulled out
Yeah.
recently, and yeah, that and Hanabi. Um,
Mm.
those are older games
Yeah.
that I still pull out all the time.
How do you find it? How do you balance playing new games and designing? And then at the same time, like when does designing become not fun anymore?
Well, they're definitely designing and playing new games is related for me. Designing becomes less fun when I'm not playing games. When I'm playing games, my mind is buzzing with ideas about what I'm seeing, what this designer has made for me, and what else could be done along the same lines, or how it could be combined with other things I've worked on. My my games uh, tend to be it's often really hard for me to uh, point at the time where a particular game design began, because wherever I think I started thinking about it, I realized, oh, you know what? I built this on this, or I combined it with that. And so there's a lot of things that I play a lot of stuff in design, which is interesting to me and teaches me something, but it's not really a finished thing yet. And then I will put it away, and it might just influence my subconscious going forward, where I might actually pull it out and work on it later. But it's a big mixing pot, my design.
Hmm. So speaking on that, you say you don't know when you sometimes start a design, but like as mentioned, Magic the Gathering, I believe 30 years this year.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Um, when did you start working on that? And at what point did you realize, wow, I kind of got something really good here? Because the community in the Magic the Gathering like community is massive. Like, well, when did you realize, wow, this is actually something special?
yeah, uh, that's Magic is an excellent example of not knowing when the design started. I know when the major epiphany happened, that I realized at some point that not all players had to have the same material in a game, and
Hmm.
that I found really exciting, the possibilities that could bring to the game. And uh, but I remember at that time vividly uh, not even being sure you could make a game like that,
Hmm.
because you think of chess isn't going to get any better if you can choose your own pieces.
Hmm.
um, at least I didn't think so at the time. And and same with whatever Uno, bridge. These games don't lend themselves immediately to this concept. But when I finally got something which started to work, which was, I don't know, I think a few weeks later, um, I built it on the framework of a game I'd been working on a long time, where which was inspired by, I think, uh, Cosmic Encounter.
Hmm.
In Cosmic Encounter, I was amazed by how um, uh, emergent the play could be based on the powers that players had, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if all the cards in the deck were special powers? And so that's
Hmm.
where I began with Magic, um, and piecing these together ended up with the game that got published in '93. And I knew I was really really knew it was special very quickly,
Hmm.
and and just kept getting that reaffirmed. My play testers just couldn't stop playing it, couldn't stop talking about it, and this is for years afterwards, and with the same card set. A lot of people mistake trading card games as needing this engine of new cards. It's not true. They stand indefinitely on their own with one set of cards. It's more of a business thing that they need more cards, and it also appeals to certain player types that want to sort of see more stuff. But
Mhm.
the same cards can be played indefinitely. Now, did I think that it was going to be super successful? Um, that's another question, because I had played plenty of games which I thought were excellent. You know, my parents hadn't heard about them, and they weren't, to my knowledge, particularly successful. So I knew this was something special, but I didn't know that it was going to be successful. That surprised me for years and years.
Mhm. Are you still designing like Magic the Gathering stuff? I know the universe is still putting stuff out, but are you still one of the designers in that?
Um, Occasionally, it's been a little while, but Mark Rosewater will invite me in, and I'll work on a set, and that set will sort of the concepts of that will carry for a few years. But I'm not actively engaged right now, and I don't know when the next time I will be. It's actually one of the interesting things about the development of Magic was that I gave up being a principal designer for it very early.
Hmm.
Um, I did the first set, and I did Arabian Nights, which was the first expansion. But after that, I realized I knew that Magic was sort of it was so big, and so many different types of people were playing it, that having it filter through one person's brain was not correct.
Mhm.
So I wanted to make sure that the developers and the designers that came on felt like they had the autonomy to really do what they want, make their own mistakes, and so forth. Um, and so that's how it's been for a long time.
Wow, that's it stands the test of time. It's a testament to the game design, and kudos to you for fleshing that out and taking those ideas and running with it. And it's remarkable what it's done and how it's brought so many new people into the hobby. Another game that's brought a lot of people into the hobby, I feel, and one that was one of the first games that I kind of got when I started getting into it was King of Tokyo. And you said you don't know necessarily when a game started, but like, did you play a lot of Yahtzee and you just kind of built King of Tokyo around the concept of Yahtzee, knowing that a lot of people know the game where you roll dice, you can have up to two rerolls? Is that kind of where you got the start in King of Tokyo?
Yeah, King of Tokyo is one that I kind of think I know when it started design. I was in I remember I was in California and talking at Blizzard. And on the way back, I began thinking about Yahtzee because one of my friends was really into Yahtzee, a very smart fellow, and he was trying to figure out how to play optimally, because Yahtzee is a game which people are kind of often a little dismissive of because there's so much luck in it, but they don't appreciate necessarily that 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 while there's a lot of luck, getting the best percentages is really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I began to think about how nice the design of Yahtzee was, and I thought that if I wanted to improve it, uh, I would address two things. I would try to add a flavor to it and
Mm-hmm.
make it more interactive. Um, and I didn't necessarily count those as those aren't intrinsically improvements. Um, I think sometimes flavor detracts from a game, and there's plenty of really good non-interactive games that are either races or some other optimization thing, and so I don't hold those against those games, but at the same time, it felt like an opportunity for something, and so that's what I began thinking about, and uh, and so one of the thing when I'm trying to add interaction in a game, one of the main issues I deal with is how to uh, keep players from picking on each other too much.
Mm-hmm.
I really I tend not to um, be satisfied all the time with a lot of the passive aggressive interaction that you'll get with the way I interact with you is by taking this option that you want.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's fine, but I also like sort of more direct interaction, like you see in poker, um, and or chess, and 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 so with a lot of people in a game, though, that can lead to a lot of picking on people and sort of bad feelings. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think the core of the game was coming up with this king of the hill idea that there was really direct attacking, but you had no choice of who you attacked, and you had a lot of autonomy as to whether you were a lot of agency as to whether you were set yourself up as a target or not.
Mm-hmm. So, and then you did King of Tokyo, and then King of New York, and then most recently you did King of Monster Island. Do you ever wish that I know that the 10th anniversary of King of Tokyo was kind of the dark edition, if you would maybe call the 10th anniversary. Did you ever wish that Yellow would have made like a miniatures version of King of Tokyo as like a big 10th anniversary?
Uh, I I didn't think about that in particular for the 10th anniversary, but that would have been nice. Uh, that's a certain, but in general, we've talked about putting miniatures in the game
Mhm.
in some version of it for a while because the characters that Yellow has made are so wonderful. They're
Mhm.
really really good, and you know they're fine the way they do them, full color, the stand-ups, and but yeah, there is an opportunity there for actually having miniatures, which you know maybe one day will be met.
How much different was designing King of Monster Island versus King of Tokyo? Did you run into some of the same not pitfalls, but some of the same design hangups?
No, King of Monster Island was far more difficult to work to
Hmm.
design. That's I think I think balancing a game like King of Tokyo is pretty easy, uh, but balancing a cooperative game is very hard, and that's because uh, in a competitive game, players are providing the balance for each other.
Hmm.
And as a designer, what you're trying to do is sort of just make sure that players have enough chance at the appropriate times, and that's sort of what the balance comes down to, and also add enough luck, perhaps that players can overcome being not as good, and that way a broader group of people can play. But
Hmm.
these aren't important in a cooperative game. In a cooperative game, you've got uh, a single system which has to handle a wide range of skills of players. Um, and if you make a game with skill, and
Hmm.
and um, and you know most of my games have they've got a lot of skill. They may have a lot of luck too. That is improving your chances. There may be a lot of noise in it, like you might lose because you got unlucky, but that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of skill sort of as part of it. Again,
Yeah.
like poker,
Hmm.
you won't win poker all the time, but you can put a lot of time into becoming a better player.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, getting a system which could handle a wide range of player skills and be appropriately challenging when some people like an easy challenge and some like a hard challenge is very hard. Took a long time, took a lot of people.
Hmm. I bet. Do you have any more monster packs in the works for King of Tokyo?
Yes,
Yeah.
we are working on one right now.
Okay.
I don't know that I'm allowed to talk about it though, so I guess I'll let Yellow handle that.
Okay. Well, I'm excited. My favorite one, I haven't played them all, but my favorite one probably is the cyber, what's it? Cybertooth? Is that the name
Oh
of
yeah,
it?
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, that's right. Cybertooth. I think that's right.
Cybertooth. Only because I know whenever I play King of Tokyo, me and my game group, we just chant to we like peer pressure people to stay in Tokyo to have those big rolls to try to eliminate everybody, and then they just push their luck too far, and then someone eliminates them, So not many of our games are won via the stars, but I love that berserk mode where you can get that big red die and you just cause absolute chaos. But let's talk about some of your newer stuff. You have a brand new one, of course, Mindbug, and then you have another one. You've been talking about poker, and this creature feature kind of has a poker-esque aspect to it. What exactly is kind of your latest project?
Yeah, Creature Feature came out last fall, and it is a bluffing poker style game. Players have a hand of cards with different values of monsters. For example, the 11 is um, Frankenstein, and the 10 is the vampire. And you play two of them at a time, and you're trying to win the pot, which is a movie and associated short features.
Okay.
Uh, and and there's a very simple betting mechanic, which is just you also, this is very important in the game, you reveal one of your monsters, but you leave the other hidden, so you don't know what the
Hmm.
total is, and that's the total is how strong you are. But
Hmm.
I think the engine which really makes it interesting is that if you reveal, you have to reveal the smaller monster, or you are playing with a twist. So, in other words, if you reveal a vampire, which is a 10,
Hmm.
then the only legal hand you can have in some sense is Frankenstein. You have to
Right.
have that face cut down card has to be an 11, which means you've got the nuts. You've got a perfect hand. You can't be beat, and so
Hmm.
everybody should leave. But you could be bluffing. You could have a crap card underneath it, and uh, and if you do, you're going to lose to everybody, no matter what hand they've got, unless they're playing with a twist as well. And so what this leads to is that if people don't bluff, um, then the high hand will win, and uh, and people will start folding when they don't think they've got the high hand, and then the person who's seeing people run away will start putting up their big card because they may as well get extra points. You get extra points when you bluff successfully, and then everybody ran will say, "Oh, well, I could have stayed this time," and so you get this real interesting dynamic of which is constantly pushing you between bluffing and not bluffing.
So, did you have the theme of like kind of like old horror movies picked out when you designed it, or that kind of got added on after?
Uh, that's a little bit of a mix. The theme really came about because the publisher, Trick or Treat Games or Trick or Treat Studios, wanted this game, and as you can tell from their name, they have some ins with Halloween products,
Hmm.
and so that got me thinking along those lines, and so I made the game for them. It was developed on top of some other stuff which I've been working on, as is my habit. But really, this classic movie monsters, I, I I found it appealing immediately because I mean, there's monsters all over in games, but there's
Hmm.
not too many games which deal with these movies that I grew up with creature features and sort of the late night chiller thrillers and so
Yeah.
forth. And so that's what this is based on.
Hmm. That sounds super exciting. I love like there's not deduction, but there's kind of I love that whole like betting and bluffing, and so I'm definitely interested in checking that out. What is it? What's the play count on that one?
Uh, it can handle up to six.
Hmm.
I think it plays. I think you can play with three, but it's not a great game. It's okay. It's 4, 5, 6 works very well. My favorite
Hmm.
player count is probably five.
Probably five. So, and that's readily available.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Very cool. Well, I'm definitely gonna have to check out Creature Feature. And as we wrap up, I have to say, um, one of your like hidden gems is wrong side is Treasure Hunter. I'm on the wrong side. There we
Yeah.
go. Treasure Hunter. I'm assuming
I'll point to it. I don't think it'll help you though.
I'm assuming nothing else is coming out on that game.
No, not right now.
No.
It does have the people who like it do like it quite a lot.
Hmm.
So, I'm hoping in time there will be something more, but I haven't heard anything.
I love that game. That was kind of one of the it's actually the first review I ever watched was for Treasure Hunter because I saw it in my local game store. I was like, this looks sweet. And then I checked into it and I actually watched Dan King, Game Boy Geek, his review on it. And after that, I was like, I need to have this game. And then obviously I
Hey,
got it. And then I got all the expansion. Well, I guess there's what the Queenie and the Goblin expansion and the loot one.
yeah, yeah. I think that's
And
yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the rounds where that huge 5 points like big goblin comes out, the
Mhm.
brute goblin,
Yeah.
and then the dog cards are like scarce, and I just love that chaos personally in my games because you're drafting and you're like, oh man, I got to get more dogs or I'm gonna get absolutely toasted, and I don't know, I think if you have a chance to play a treasure hunter and you're a fan of drafting, I highly, highly recommend checking out checking out Treasure Hunter. And I
Yeah.
hope maybe one day we'll see more content
Uh,
for that.
yeah, that would be great. As a quick aside, the original flavor for Treasure Hunter was actually science fiction. It was
Hmm.
called Starship Vasa, and there was instead of goblins, it was sort of space pirates, and you were trading between three different planets. Uh, but a lot of the times, the publishers push whatever design I'm bringing to fantasy because that's what I'm known for.
Known
And
for.
so yeah, there's another game out just recently, The Heroes of Therion, I think it's called.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, that was a game about baking originally. The players were
Really?
bakers. Yeah, yeah. But they thought it would do better if it was sort of a fantasy theme.
Hmm. Very fascinating. It's kind of I love hearing these stories because we as consumers just go to the shell or go to the store and we see these games, we're like, oh, that's cool. But there's so much backstory and there's so much like history is not the right word, but you know what I mean? There's so many ideas and so many things that go into the finished product, it as a designer, whether you push through a certain area and something clicked or, you really loved the process of designing game X, Y, or Z or whatever. They all have stories behind it. And I love hearing things like that about how themes changed. um, was King of Tokyo always, big monsters? Did you pitch that
No,
like that?
I did pitch it like that, but one of the common questions that will be asked to a designer, as I'm sure you know, is whether you come up with theme first or mechanics,
Mm-hmm.
and I do both. I can find examples in my uh, repertoire of both, but King of Tokyo was very firmly mechanics first.
Mm.
And so the first time I made it, it was actually generic fantasy. Sort of you were upgrading your hero, getting healers, things like that.
Yep.
Uh, and then at some point sat down and said, okay, I know that fantasy is just a placeholder here. What makes sense? And we
Mm-hmm.
brainstormed a bunch of different uh, themes, and King of Tokyo won the day. It was a strong idea.
Well, I think it was a great idea, and sales show that, and the popularity of the game show that. So I think the right call was made in that. So, well, thanks so much for taking the time there, Richard, and just chatting about game design and what you have gone through, and as you've shared different ideas on how you design the games out. I hope that inspires other designers as they hear your story. And Creature Feature is definitely one I'm going to have to check out, because I love myself a good bluffing game, and
Yep.
so yeah.
Yeah. Let me
And
know how you like it if you play it.
I will. I definitely will. And so, yes, if you want to know obviously more about Richard's work, go to BGG, start searching up some of these games: King of Tokyo, Treasure Hunter, Creature Feature, Mind Bug, Bunny Kingdom. There's a whole bunch of them. So check those things out. Check us out on Facebook, Cloudy with a Chance of Meeples. And remember, community is built on conversation, just like games are built on ideas. Until next time, grab your umbrella. The forecast is cloudy with a chance of meeples.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember to grab your umbrella because the forecast is cloudy with a chance of meeples.